All right, looks like we're good to go. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about senior housing because it's all part of the housing crisis, and thought no better guest than to come on to our Building BN podcast than Matt Riehle with Westminster. Before we jump into the topic itself, can you tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up here in Bloomington-Normal?
Yeah, so I guess I've heard a couple of your podcasts, Patrick, and I've been here almost 30 years now. So I guess like I feel I'm from, Bloomington Normal, but actually came here from Chicago to go to school at Illinois Wesleyan.
Oh, nice.
And, that love the city and had great experiences. But when I got to Illinois Wesleyan, I really enjoyed, Bloomington Normal is a special place. And when you're a little younger, you think, oh, other things you're looking for, but came to just fall in love with it. And actually, my junior year of school, I just stayed in Bloomington, rented an apartment with some friends, and Wesleyan's been great to me. They're a great asset to the community, and I haven't left Bloomington since I graduated college. So,
Nice.
like I said, it's been before the turn of the century, so I kind of consider myself almost a native now.
Yeah, you're basically a townie. So when you say you're from Chicago, are you from the city, or you're like me when I was from Tinley Park and I still say Chicago?
Well, both. I was from Chicago born. My dad was a public school teacher at now defunct Austin High School in
Okay,
Chicago, but ended up becoming the head football coach and athletic director at Evanston High School. So I guess
sure.
Evanston borders the Howard Street cuts Evanston from Chicago. So played baseball at Potawatomi Park, which is in Rogers Park. I'll get to one of my uniques or add that into a city connection. But, the community here is so good. And again, there's lots of different things people can do when they choose to live. But I can't see myself leaving the Bloomington Normal like community after my experience here.
So with Evanston, does that make you a Cubs fan then?
Well, I hate to say because it's thinking about no, we actually so my parents were from south of Madison, so in
Okay.
Austin neighborhood. So technically, the dividing line of Chicago is Madison, so that puts you south if you're south of that. So for whatever reason, we were Sox fans, which is
Fans.
so as much as Cubs fans say they suffer. Uh, Sox and Bears fans are not
Yes.
terribly far behind, and unlike the Cubs, who have at least won in the last 25, 20 years, uh, and I don't know that our prospects are getting any better.
Yep. Understandable. So yeah, let's jump into that unique personal fact. What's a fun fact about yourself?
So probably a couple of them. I have played, when we played baseball, Chicago Park District baseball, the city championship was always at Comiskey Park. So I have played baseball at Comiskey Park, and I've played hockey at what was the United Center. Well, I guess it still is the United Center now.
Still is,
They
yep.
rename all those. So I played at least two of the major venues. And one of our good friends growing up, his godfather was of the Malnati lineage, and Rudy had always ran the Air and Water show. So way back when, before the tragedy of 9/11, he allowed us to fly. So I've actually flown in an F-14, and I've flown in a
Wow.
stunt plane as they were practicing for the Air and Water show. So they used to use airstrip in Gary to take off and then fly into the city to do all the shows. So now they don't let civilians fly in military type planes, but I flew in an F-14 many years ago.
Very nice. And Malnati, does that have anything to do with the pizza?
Yep. His so Rudy's family is of the Malnati's Pizza. Rudy opened Paisanos, which is they now have at least three locations, I believe. We kind of grew up going to the State Street location, and when you're young and in Chicago and you're on State Street and Rush Street and all those good streets, there's a lot of fun to be had down there. So
Sure.
spent a lot of
Well, I
time.
gotta ask, with all the pizza knowledge you have, do you have like the go-to pizza of Chicago? Can you even
There's
make that in
only
city?
one pizza you can ever possibly order. It's Paisanos.
There
There's
you go.
only four ingredients on a pizza. It's peppers, sausage, mushroom, and onion. There's no dispute. It's a deep dish pizza that you don't ask. There's no other toppings on a pizza. You don't even have to think about it. I have
It's like
this
a Chicago
argument with
hot.
non-Chicago pizza, and God bless the monocles and all those people, but that's not really pizza. And that's my only complaint against Central Illinois.
Okay.
I hope
That's
no one
hilarious.
cuts us off after this.
Yeah, I know. So it's like that. We're gonna have a big pizza debate. Yeah, we don't have, as far as I know, there is no Chicago pizza down here at all.
No, I mean, Rosati's-ish was, I guess you could kinda say that, and some people do some iterations of it. Giordano's was, but yeah, really, I mean, people kinda rip off that style, and so if you the only thing you were to ask me is if I were to go to Chicago, which I periodically do, it's really just to eat food that, we have a great food scene and we have great people doing. I'm not knocking it in any capacity, but like it's really hard to find that pizza. It's really hard to find a beef sandwich outside of Portillo's. It's really hard to find we used to have sub places on the corner and stuff like that. So the only thing I really miss would probably be that.
Okay, well, actually, one of the things that we just approved, our board did, for next year in 2026 is that we will actually be doing holistic economic development, meaning we'll be attracting retail. So
Okay.
next time I go see my daughter up in Lincoln Park, I'll hit up some pizza joints and see what it takes to get them back down here. So that'll
All right.
you just
If you
start
need
with it.
help, and do some taste testing, and let me know.
Yeah, if you can make some calls to the Malnati family and bring them down, that's that's how deals get done. So let's talk a little bit about you yourself, and then yeah, what you do. I mean, probably like me, there's not a normal day, but just your role at the company at Westminster, and like what an average day looks like.
So yeah, what I mean, Westminster, I have the blessing and privilege of working with an amazing group of about 350 team members, and we take care of somewhere between 430 and 450 people on a daily basis. So Westminster is a life plan community or a continuing care retirement community, kind of the two popular terms. And so what that means is that the basis is we have independent living units, and most people come here because this is where they want to live the rest of their life. And the mission of Westminster Village is we help people live their lives through the continuum of services that we offer. And so typically people come in independent living and we just take care of the details. So, uh, this weekend is a great example. No one really is excited about going out when there's 10 inches of snow and it's, minus 20 degrees. And so we take care of the snow. We bring mail right to people. We have a full dining team. We serve 3 meals a day. We have nursing staff, housekeeping, maintenance, anything that you would need to live your life. We have a store. We work very closely with Hy-Vee to get delivery. So if people have other needs that they want, we have a beauty shop. We have a bank. We have a wood shop, we have an art studio, we have residence center rooms, and we have a full continuum of programming. So I think every day in December, we have multiple groups of people performing, whether it's the Heartland Community Players, the Lexington Choir, ISU French Horns is always really popular. Politicians love to speak on our campus, a voting place, and our population is really engaged in that. And so that's kind of the background. And then, from there we have assisted living, which, people as they maybe need some more assistance. And then in that assisted living, we have some memory care units for people that are going through those changes. And then, kind of on the other side of the continuum, we have 96 beds of skilled nursing. So, people that obviously need some more help and assistance. And, really no matter where you're at on campus, our goal is to connect people to each other. Many of our residents have been longtime Bloomington natives, and so they've lived life together, and it gives them the opportunity to share events together, share meals together, share opportunities together. And so, yeah, you're right. Much like you, there isn't a normal day that we have, but really it's how we help 400 and 30 to 50 people live their life and make sure that if it's something they want to do, how do we facilitate that getting done? So most people see or have driven by our campus and think, well, it's a nice little piece of land kind of out there by the new state farm. And I don't think they, the breadth of the campus and the size of the campus, it's about 43 acres.
Nice.
And so we're actually a bigger economic engine in McLean County than people think. We're blessed to have State Farm. We're blessed to have our universities and colleges and our school districts. And hey, it's great that Rivian is here and Ferraro now. But if you were to probably extend that out to the top 15, 17 employers in McLean County, we're pretty close. And so we take pride in that. And from an economic side, we, I think, contribute a lot through the number of team members that we employ, from the number of residents that we serve and their families that we help. And, again, our hope is to continue to do even more of that, as we know that in the next 30 years, demographics show us that that's the significant rise in population given the baby boomers.
Yeah, I think I'd be really interested, and if you're up for it, I'm game to get a breakdown of your employment by occupation. Then we can actually show you an economic impact of what you mean to the economy. Because you're right, having employees on top of the residents themselves, you combine those two, that's a huge, like you're no joke, you're a village. Like you're the size of bigger than some of the small communities that are in McLean County.
But when we went through, so back in about 2015, 2016, we really started on a strategic plan of how we improve the campus. It's Westminster's about 46 years old, and things were going along really well, but we knew that this early 90s build is really going to change in what people want and what they need and what they deserve. So we went through a strategic plan to develop roughly $80 million expansion and renovation that we started in about 2017. And the side piece of that many people probably don't know, I know two companies very well personally, that have flourished because of Westminster Village. And I laugh, one of our contractors, he tells me all the time, we lost money on your project. As sizable as the project was, that company now is over 80 people and could grow more. And so we kind of chuckle about that, given the time, a lot of people were struggling, but our impact on, that $80 million was spent on local construction and local development, local infrastructure and things like that. And so, we take pride in a lot of that. Most of our, so to provide our services, we require a lot of nursing support. And so we have lots of nursing support, whether that be LPNs, RNs, and CNAs. We work very closely with, and I'm sure you're probably aware of, some of the programs that you've had, our connection with the Bloomington Career Academy now. This year, on any given day, we have about between 80 and 100 young people from the Bloomington Career Academy, either in our CNA program, in the Bloomington Career Academy CNA program, doing their clinicals here, to now culinary students doing their culinary training in our kitchen department. So, bring that whole group of people in, and then obviously to provide meals 24/7, 365. We have a lot of dietary team members on our staff, and then the housekeeping component, maintenance component. We have a full-time dietitian on our staff. We have a full business office suite that takes care of a lot of complex things when you're involved in typically licensed areas, specifically skilled nursing. We have Medicare, CMS certifications and approval. So lots of complex financial situations and very strict regulatory environment. So between consultants in all those areas and those 350 people that help us do that, and then all our partners that help us, from plumbers to electricians, the actual licensed people to, our food service suppliers and those things, it's a huge connection. And we end up probably employing, on a given year, I think at our highest year, we hired almost 30 young people, most from the Bloomington Career Academy, that have come to work here and in our kitchen or in our culinary department. And then they get that CNA certification. CNAs are getting paid really good now, which we're excited about. And then they become nurses. And so, we in the community, we pull those people to have hopefully, good paying jobs, get them a foot in the door to, learn what a job does and how to interact with people, especially, some of the younger people and the soft skills that we hear about all the time, talking to people. And so it really is. We don't close. It's 24/7, and so the impact on the community is huge.
Definitely. And I mean, I got here in 2019, and I think some of those enterprise zone certificates were still coming in from your ongoing project of that investment. But that'd be another great point whenever anyone is making the investment and doing expansions for their organization, that has a ripple effect on top of all your other employers that are already there. So I'm sure that expansion had its own economic impact because, as you mentioned, the people that was supporting those contractors, they're eating, they're going out and shopping, and hopefully they live in the area as well. So yeah, your ripple starts with that, but then all your ongoing, and then now your workforce development, like as you mentioned, the work that you're doing with the young professionals and giving them a foot in the door to work their way up, and those are great paying jobs, and as you're aware, very hard to find that type of talent. Like everybody's battling for this
Absolutely.
future workforce. And as we joked, before on air, we're not getting any younger. And that's really what, we wanted to talk about as we prepare for this next wave. One of the first things I did when I got to town was I know the population here has always been pretty steady, but and maybe just even a rising level, but nobody had broken it down by generation. And that's where I started to get concerned. It's like there are a lot of baby boomers here. And as the boomers keep retiring, and the great resignation post pandemic was real. So more people were heading into retirement. And as we mentioned, we don't need the size of the houses. Like my youngest daughter is now at ISU. I'm almost an empty nester. I don't even this big house. And that transition, that getting people to do the natural turnover that happened back in the day when we would downsize, doesn't exist. So if you could grow some more, you could help out with the housing problem quite a bit. And so I haven't looked at the numbers because I don't want to really concern myself, but like I know I'm Gen X and we're small. And as the boomers continue to retire, yeah, there could be possibly going forward a housing crisis as we move into more needs for what you guys do. Am I tracking there?
You are spot on. And so your data is, and we've been so happy to have such a great partnership, and you do a great job at EDC, all our groups connecting, is that I think because we attend national conferences and we're with national providers, and you could maybe pull out a handful of pockets of communities in the United States. I would gather that over 90% of any municipalities, or break them down by counties or whatever states, they have different names for parishes, for example, the only group or the primary group growing in population is those over the age of 65. And that is just a national statistic. It's an international statistic. On the flip side of that, and not for this day, but we see, you're right, the enrollment and the crisis of the younger person. So I think here we're awfully close, or right at the time where the first time in recorded history in any civilization, the number of people over 65 outnumbers the number of people under 25. And
Oh, wow.
so you could get into a whole bunch of dynamics in terms of macroeconomics, like what that means, Social Security, Medicare, et cetera. But we see that as in our world, we want to help people live their lives. And while we've now hit 95+% occupancy throughout our campus, which is just, again, compared to like communities is phenomenal. We know that we have 385 people on our waiting list, and that number is
Oh,
not going
wow.
to shrink. And
Right.
I think as we were talking a little bit before, many of our residents are looking for a place because in the same boat you are, and having kids leave the house here now myself. Oh, hey, I just maybe I don't need 3 or 4 bedrooms and 2 levels and those types of things. And I think from the economic side, the construction and build for everything is really expensive. And so how do we help support people maybe making that transition from those really good older neighborhoods with really great lots and homes that people want to move into? Well, we've had people in those homes that have been there for 40, 50, 60 years in some cases. And so how do we help that transition to find people the right place to be? And then the onus on us in terms of making sure our product and what we're offering is good, so that again, not just for Westminster's selfish sake, because we want to take care of those people, but also as a community need, so that that housing demand and the needs of the community can be met. We're no different in that, again, in our world, we're not State Farm, and as a nonprofit, we don't have the highest pay scale in the world. We have a great board, and we've done a great job of taking care of people very well. But I mean, I hear our own team members, they got 2 or 3 kids. The cheapest apartment they can find is $1,900, $2,000 for a 2 bedroom apartment. Well, I mean, to most regular people, that's untenable. And so, even in our world, for our team members in housing, the apartment situation and that causes us a lot of angst because we need, great people here to do a job, and it's even harder for them to do what they have to do from the housing side. And I think we'll see, I go on and on about statistics, but we know by 2030 or a little after, the population of people over 65 will double. And if you extend that out about another 10 years, it will close to double again. So we haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg. The baby boomers are, that bottom rung, I guess, as you would say, the baby boomers is way on the early age of, you're in 70s, young 70s and such. So in my world, seeing that, if you're not in this every day, um, most people would be shocked at our 80-year-old people are really young. Our 90-year-old people are really young. We had a birthday lunch last month. We had a 103-year-old and a 101-year-old. Now, they would tell you they're getting a little older, but the concept of aging is very different now in that, it's not going to be uncommon to live very healthy and very well because of advancements and hopefully some of what we do to connect people for people to be long into their, these maybe even the centenarians. And so, we want to be planned and positioned to understand how that trend is growing. So,
So yeah, we could
okay.
actually skip to the next section. Is like if you're trying to attract talent and bring in a nurse or try to keep somebody here, like if you're going to show off Bloomington-Normal, like what does the perfect day look like to highlight our location?
Well, so selfishly, I mean, if I was blessed to be a better golfer, I mean, we got great golf courses here. That's just my personal hobby. And so you being a, Tinley Park, Chicago person, like used to go and it's really expensive. And people come down here just like when I lived closer to Fox Creek, I used to know a lot of the people there. And they like people from Chicago come down here like just to spend the weekend to play golf and then go out to eat and then play more golf because it's so reasonable and expensive. uh, Uptown Normal's doing a fantastic job in terms of that whole square and, the things. I enjoy a good beer like everybody else. And I think we were joking, trying to keep some of the younger people here. Gosh, they need breweries. I think, what do we got? 7 of them.
Yeah.
And so, you can throw a little bit of that in the Coliseum. I know, for all the ups and downs it's had, we got a great hockey team now. Concerts, venues, way to bring people in. And, again, selfishly, I don't get to travel a ton, but, through conferences and stuff, we have consultants and people come in. They're like, "It's the best airport I've ever been into." Like, you get into the airport, it takes 3 minutes, you fly, and it's just, you got to connect. But, I think people, lack a little bit of Bloomington-Normal's not this small little town. We kind of get stuck between the south of I-80 mentality. But when we're in full swing with students, we got a few 100,000 people here. So we're not in the middle of nowhere as many. I thought the same thing when I first drove down. You probably had this experience when I thought I was in Southern Illinois, coming to, Bloomington, like anything south I-80 was Southern Illinois. And then you go to Southern Illinois and realize, well, we're actually positioned great.
Yes. Yeah, and actually you mentioned the Coliseum. I think a couple days ago, they announced that the Goo Goo Dolls are going to play there. So we're getting bigger
Yeah,
acts, and you're
I
right, the
mean,
hockey team's doing really well.
yeah, with great seats, easy to get to. I've seen some great concerts there, great hockey. So I mean, there's enough to keep you busy any day here.
Yep. So if there is like the one thing, because I know it's not going to be the Chicago pizza, but if there's one food item that if you're here, you got to try, what's your go-to?
So I mean, I have in a kind of a guilty pleasure, like the regular Chinese food that you go all these places. And I've been blessed to go to a lot of places. No one has a better egg roll than Grand Cafe. It doesn't exist. So, it's not in the old building it used to be downtown. It's actually right over here by Westminster Village on Oakland Street. Know the people that own that. And so they brought the recipe over. And so I don't want to discriminate because we have tons of good restaurants and plenty of good places to go to. But it's interesting. I mean, I've been to a lot of regular Chinese places. No one has an egg roll like Grand Cafe does.
Good to know. That's one of the reasons like ask that question just so I can go find new things to try too.
Yeah,
I
they're
didn't
doing
know that, so I'm
yeah, they're doing
trying
a
that
great
out.
job.
Well, then the last question I always ask everybody is why does economic development matter? And it seems like you are your own economic driver. So yeah, why does economic development matter?
Well, because I think we got into the discussion a little bit in conversation is we want to be able to serve more. And, economics are really challenging right now. So, no different than the housing market is struggling. I tell people all the time, I'm not a house builder. So people that build houses are having trouble. And so for us to be able to grow and serve more and do those things, we're facing the same challenges from the, construction side and lending environment, although that's become a little bit better here. And so development is really important because our connections to Town of Normal, City of Bloomington, EDC, our local partners, hey, the school districts have been great when, I don't think people realize as another economic engine, we pay a lot of property tax. And so we contribute heavily to the community in that regard. But all the bodies have been very willing to say, hey, guys, you're adding jobs, you're doing this, we'll work with you to make sure that we're fair. And so as our plans move forward and our ideas move forward and some next steps and ideas that we have, none of this happens in a vacuum. And so we may have some great team members and great board members and a great organization and ideas, but we don't go at this alone. And so we want to understand the housing challenges because they're important to what we're doing, not just to people as they age, but people both for our team members and people looking at to move into Westminster, and then the people that are looking at buying those houses. And so, I think the one thing is the connections that we all have here is supporting our local people. We're 100% local here at Westminster, and we want that brand and we want that logo to be looked at and say, hey, if I have questions about aging, if I have needs about aging, if I have issues, that's who I want to think of. We want everyone to do great. We just want to do a little bit better. And I think all that the component of economic development helps us all understand what we need, plan better, make sure we meet community needs. And so we're not doing something that isn't needed or doesn't bring benefit to the community.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, it's been great to watch you guys grow. And I'm hoping there's plans to grow in the future. Because as you said, if we're going to keep doubling every 5 to 10 years, we got to get ready for it. So happy
Yep,
to start those
we
conversations.
we will be, and we're we got lots of support from the community, and just tell them to hold on. We want to serve all those people on our waiting list and all those people that need that help. And as I say, God willing, long after the next 46 years, someone else will be here in these shoes, and hopefully they say we did a great job, and we want that Westminster name to be recognized as that leader in senior care long after I'm gone.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover while I have you on here?
No, I appreciate it. Been good. Love hearing your podcast and seeing how successful it is, and maybe hopefully this sparks somebody to have a cool thought, or feel free to reach out if we can do anything.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, Patrick, appreciate it. Thanks for the time.